friends. I just started my day a little early today because had my brothers in town and their partners, and one of them took off this morning. We got up nice and early, and I'm having this interesting coincidence of impulses where I, on the one hand, I'm being sort of drawn into family and family patterns, what I've talked about several times over the holidays as being, the kind of family vortex, for lack of a better word, because that's what it feels like when you get around the people that you are arguably closest to, even if, whatever our relationship is with our family. I feel like I'm very fortunate and lucky in that I have wonderful relationships with virtually everyone in my family. But that doesn't mean that there isn't still kind of a cluster, a complex of things that get triggered. And so I'm sort of like, as the holidays wind down and I prepare to leave town, I'm sort of observing that on the downslope and appreciating what I was talking about a couple days ago on my post of how, just what an opportunity it is to look at some of that stuff, family time, and what the holidays often end up being in this kind of bizarre way where we connect with the people we've spent our lives being formed by, and we look at what we are now together, and we remember who we were together, and we wrestle with that if we need to. It's really interesting. So that's kind of one set of impulses that's going on. The other thing that showed up this morning is I had this sense of being like, almost like I was being drawn forward into something, like I'm being inducted into a new way of life, like a completely new set of patterns. And I can't put my finger on why I feel that way. It's not clear to me why I feel that way. It's just clear that I do. And it's interesting because we watched Bo Burnham's Inside last night, which is, if you haven't seen it, it's well worth checking out. It's an amazing one-man show, kind of a comedy special, musical comedy special that Bo Burnham did in a single room, entirely by himself. All the writing, creation, shooting, editing, designing, all of it. It's a pretty impressive piece. And I just caught myself, especially as it ended. There's he's an incredibly self-aware artist, and he's an incredibly just intensely intelligent person. And so his analysis and what's going on behind the kind of proscenium of his presentation is both part of the show, and it's also it's a reflection of society. It's a reflection of cultural currents, cultural imperatives being expressed through a 30-year-old human being. And the one thing that I found interesting, and one thing that I felt myself afterwards, I heard myself reflecting on it, and I felt like the one thing I was missing was a space, the space of, well, for lack of a better word, spiritual presence. It's like hyper intelligence, but contained within a box that doesn't have that space, that sense of the infinite, and that sense of, therefore, gentleness. I mean, that's not a criticism that I can fully leverage against the entire piece, because there is definitely a space of gentleness and playfulness throughout. But it kind of clued me into something in the culture. It kind of gave me this sense of we're really missing that. That's not something that the culture either encourages or offers or even necessarily acknowledges. I think we're so suspect of anything spiritual as a culture. We're sort of on guard almost, because it feels like spiritual space is a space that we retreat into when other spaces fail us. If our career, if our culture, if our safety, if anything is threatened, we sort of retreat into spirituality. And and that's both true and untrue. It's true in that oftentimes in adversity we seek a space that is capable of reframing that adversity, or containing, or transcending that adversity. But it's also untrue, because that's not the only function of transcendence. Transcendence and the spiritual reality of the practice of connecting with the fabric of existence, the underlying source of consciousness and all experience, is not simply something that we turn to, or its only function is not to be a balm when the world is hard. That's an incredibly important function, but it's not the only function. And I think there's another function, which is to contextualize and organize all other experience, and to give us a kind of scaffold, to give us a roadmap for everything else, for all of what we do. Well, Lisa's stirring. And so anyway, so coming back to my original point, I've got this family set of patterns that's been activated and continues to activate, and I'm feeling myself get to the end of that. My other brother's here, spent the night, we're gonna have breakfast together, then he and his wife are gonna take off. That'll kind of be the end of my holiday. Then I pack the car and drive to Houston in 2 days. So I've got that, but there's this other realm that I was just talking about, which is like, what am I really doing here? What's this really about? I came away from Bo Burnham's show feeling like, oh my God, the work in this domain is so vital. It's so vital. And what I was saying yesterday about surrender came back too this morning. What if surrender is letting go of some of those forces and some of those imperatives? Some of those creative aspirations. What if surrender is letting go of some of that? Maybe letting go of all of it. And not operating out of aspiration anymore. But operating out of the necessity of the moment. What do we need? If this space is something that the culture deeply needs, what if that's my work? What if this is my work? So that's kind of a rough and relatively vague outline of the two forces that I'm feeling as I wake up this morning, as I come to and begin the day, and kind of I was groggy because we went to bed so late, and then I got up really early. Even my meditation felt a little groggy, but these currents. It's funny because sometimes being groggy is good. It disarms the typical robust kind of patterns that we have. But I'm certainly, again, as I get closer to this trip and whatnot, I'm feeling like, what's this work really about? What is my work really about? Let me get really real about that. And certainly as the new year begins, as I head towards New Year's, 1 year's worth of this video post and beyond, what's this really about becomes a massive question. Thank you for watching, folks. Sounds like I have an awakened daughter. Love you. Appreciate you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.